FarmPreps.com. I'm Evan Wren, and this is the Capital Farm Credit Wednesday night podcast, a weekly look at the area athletic scene, what happened last week, and what's going on this week. I'm here with my partner, Dan Youngblood, via Zoom. And tonight, Dan, we kick off the 2022-23 school year with our first podcast of the school year, and we're going to do that by taking a look at our district predictions, district by district, for football.
Yeah, like you said, this is the kicking off the school year. We've done all the legwork. If you haven't had a chance to check out our preview, make sure you do that. There's a ton of information on all of the schools we cover. And yeah, today's an opportunity to kind of look at how we see these districts playing out. We've got the season starting tomorrow with 3 games in the area. So it's a good time, I think, to take a look at kind of the districts, how you and I see them playing out, and kind of seeing where some of those similarities, some of those differences are. And yeah, just kind of getting ready for the season. It's about that time. Hard to believe it's our 5th school year. It's a 5th football season, but I think we're both fired up for it.
5th school year, 5th football season. And there were people out there who said we weren't going to make it. Season 5. What do you think of that? How do you like them apples? Anyway, let's dive in with both feet. Before we do that, though, let's thank our primary sponsor, Capital Farm Credit, with offices all over Texas, including Stanford and Abilene. Buy your own slice of Texas with Capital Farm Credit. Together, we're better. And with that, Dan, District 10, 2A, D2 out in Region 3 is where we will start. We have one team and one team only in this league, and that's the Hico Tigers. We both agree that the Mart Panthers are the team to beat, and that's really no surprise. It's perennial power. Wortham is our number 2 pick, and we disagree on Hico's placing. You take him number 3, I take him number 4, but we do agree on this. Even though Hico is in a rebuilding cycle, this is not the strongest district overall from top to bottom on the block, and this gives Hico a shot at still landing a playoff spot despite being in that rebuilding cycle, and we both got them picked to do that.
Yeah, and I think this is an interesting district because you look at the top, you've got Mart, who, like you said, is kind of the undisputed favorite. That, like you said, that's a state power and very super talented every year. This is going to be the same thing. But I think below them, I think Wortham, with what they have coming back, the best pick for the second spot. But I do think that there's a lot of parity below Mart. Like there's a chance to have a lot of competitive games in this league. And Hico, the thing that sold me is while they are young, talking to Coach Swearingen, he really likes some of the talent he's got. He's got some really kind of good young linemen, and then some skill guys who are kind of stepping on their own. This is a Hico team with only one senior, Ty Crawford, who plays on their D line and will play a little bit of fullback. But I do think that there's some talent on this roster. And I think they made some strides last year during last year's playoff season that'll benefit them this year as well. So I like them to make the playoffs, whether it's in that 3 spot or that 4 spot. But I think that this team will have a good opportunity to play in the postseason again.
All right, now we're going to jump up to District 8 2A, D2, again, a district that we only have one team from our coverage area involved with, and that's going to be the Santo Wildcats. We have a disagreement here. I took Munster, who has 7 starters on both sides of the ball, coming back from a very, very good football team. And you took Santo, who's got a bunch of people back, and that's going to be an improved Santo team. Munster has to go to Santo. For that, I believe the district opener for both of those clubs. This is going to be interesting and a fun league.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, I can see that going either way, honestly. I mean, I just with Santo, I usually handle them during our preview, and Devin Mann is pretty optimistic about what they've got this year, and with good reason. They won 11 games last year, 11-2 last year, bring a lot of kids back from that group. And really, I think should be very good. Munster is going to be a really tough test. I wish that game was played later in the district schedule. I hate that's played so early, but that's going to be a huge matchup. And that one, I think, will pretty well decide that league. You've got some teams below that where Lindsay, Celeste, Collinsville all could finish in any order. But I think that Santo and Munster game is going to be a really fun one regardless of who wins it.
I think Collinsville is the team that might be the dark horse in there. I don't see them as a possible league champion, but I think that they could land a high playoff seed. They have 21 of 22 kids back. So I'm kind of keeping an eye on that Collinsville team. I think they're scary. All right, with that, we're going to jump over to District 7 2A, Division 2, now in Region 2, and a district that we've got 2 ball clubs involved with. We got Haskell and Monday in this league. Again, Dan and I agree on the league champion. We're both taking Windthorst. We're both taking Archer City as the number 2 team, and Seymour number 3. Really just right down the line, we agreed. But I'll tell you what, this Haskell football team might be the best Haskell team we've seen in 6 or 7 years out there. They've got a lot of people back, And Coach McLemore has a track record everywhere he's been. In his second year, his teams have always taken this huge step forward every single year that he's been, no matter where. So look out for Haskell. They might be way up in the mix this year.
Yeah, I actually think there's some intriguing storylines with both of our teams in this league, and kind of an interesting tie-in to the two is you got McLemore at Haskell and Webb Murphy, who's taken over the Monday job, who both were former Stanford assistants together. So there's kind of a Stanford tie-in there. But I think Haskell is interesting for the reason you mentioned. Obviously, McLemore has typically made big strides in that second year and has really done a good job of turning around virtually every program he's coached at. And then that's kind of what Murphy's trying to do at Monday. Obviously, I think everybody kind of thinks this is going to be a rebuilding year for them, and I think that's likely to be the case. But it will be interesting to see what he can do just in terms of kind of laying that foundation for a program that I think does finally have a little bit more talent coming through the pipeline to where they can kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel of this rebuild. So it's going to be fun to see kind of what strides they can make this year.
All right, now we're going to go to District 6, 2A, Division 2, still in Region 2. We've got a number of teams from our area in there, including Albany, who is ranked #1 in the state by Dave Campbell's Texas Football Magazine. We've got Roscoe, Cross Plains, Hamlin, and then a brand new 11-man team, Abilene TLCA, who is up from the 6-man ranks to join this district following the last realignment. We both take Albany. We both agree right down the line again in this district. We're both taking Albany to win, and we both agree on Albany. Dave Campbell's Texas Football Magazine picking them #1 with only 6 starters back on both sides of the ball, and they have to rebuild their offensive line and the interior of their defense. So you're kind of left wondering, can they live up to that billing? That's a really high billing, considering what they've got, got to rebuild and replace. They're going to be awfully good. They could win a regional title, but I do think that there's a couple of questions that need to be answered before we know, hey, are they good enough to go to Jerry World?
Yeah, and I think Albany's going to get a couple of pretty good tests in this district. I think this Roscoe team, which kind of came out of nowhere to win double-digit games last year, is going to be very, very good again this year. They return a whole lot of talent and bring back a lot of momentum and confidence. So I think that's going to be a really good test for Albany in district. And I think Cross Plains, they bring a whole lot back from last year's team too, and are pretty enthusiastic about what they've got as well. They were obviously struck by tragedy, lost Ryan Hopkins in a tragic car accident, and that was a big loss for many, many reasons, well beyond football. But I do think this district's going to be very, very competitive. Miles has had a good program as well. Hamlin expects to be better, so I think it's going to be a fun district. I think Albany, like we said, is the favorite, but I do think there are a couple of tests in this district that will help get them ready for the playoffs. But so by the time they get there, some of those question marks we talked about won't be quite as large question marks.
There's a measuring stick for Albany in the non-district portion of their schedule. They're going to be squaring off at home against Hawley in September, and that's the game that I want to really take a look at and kind of gauge how far along they are. That's if they knock off Hawley. They've got what it takes to get to Jerry World at that point. That would answer any questions that anybody may have about the Lions.
And I think that game October 21st at Roscoe will be I think you'll kind of see between that Hawley game and that Roscoe game, you'll kind of see the progress that they've made as well. This is a team that obviously is going to go into the playoffs with a high seed, and we'll get to see just how good they are in a couple of those matchups even before the playoffs start.
All right, now we're going to jump over to District 5, to a Division 1, moving up to Division 1 in this league, and we've got a number of our area teams involved, and we pretty much well, for the most part, we agree, at least in the top 3. We both take Coleman as the league champ, and this dangerous Toller team is one to keep an eye on, Dan, with a lot of talent back. Hamilton, I think, is maybe a little underrated by a lot of people. We both have them at number 3, and then we start disagreeing a little bit. I like this Bangs team. I think a lot of people are kind of overlooking Bangs. I took him for that final playoff spot. You're going with San Saba. Bangs is huge. They've got an enormous offensive line. They've got the Pal kid running behind it. They've got an experienced quarterback. I like him to take a move ahead this year and take a playoff spot.
Yeah, one thing that's kind of neat about this district is I think, like you said, you and I kind of agree in the hierarchy at the top of it. I think Coleman is the clear favorite after coming off the season they just had last year with everything they've got back, even though this Toller team will be good. But the thing that's kind of intriguing about this district is the bottom 4. I mean, it could be, who knows how that's going to turn out. You've got 4 teams, all of which think they're going to be better this year. When you talk about San Saba, Bangs, Goldthwaite, De Leon, and all four of those are going to be really fighting hard for one of those last two playoff spots, most likely. So you're going to see some really important, really fun games, I think, in this district. And honestly, I think you're kind of throwing darts as far as how you think that's going to end. But that will be, I think, a fun storyline in this district as it goes along.
All right, now we're going to move over to District 4, 2A, Division 1, and an interesting district, Dan, with a number of teams that I'd like to keep an eye on. We agree on the top two picks up there. We're both taking Holly to win it. Cisco is going to be right there, though. I would not be surprised to see Cisco walk away with the league title. And I'm fully expecting these two teams that are that good to play twice this year, once in district and again sometime in postseason. We start disagreeing at this point. I'm going with Olney and Coach Jody Guy's flexbone offense to take that third spot, followed by Stanford, an improved Stanford team with a lot of speed and a lot of athleticism to take the fourth spot. I think those are four clear picks.
Yeah, I mean, I think those are the four, certainly the playoff favorites. And Stanford, I think, is going to be a really intriguing team because they started a lot of really young kids last year due to necessity. And now all those kids are kind of veterans and they're really talented. They've got a really talented sophomore class. They had a really good JV last year despite playing a bunch of freshmen on varsity. They were undefeated at the 8th grade level. They've got a good youth movement coming through, and Britt Hart seems really excited about what they've got going. So I'm excited about the Stanford team. And honestly, what's kind of interesting about this district is you've got Winters, Anson, and Colorado City, none of which are going to want to seed, a playoff spot to any of those others. So those teams are going to be fighting hard for that as well. So it's going to be a really fun district, kind of see how those last couple of playoff spots shake out.
All right, now we're going to move over to District 3, 2A, Division 1, where we've got one team and one team only from our coverage area involved in this. We've got the Forsan Buffaloes, who are coming off one of their best seasons in a long time last year, and they should be solid again this year. We both took Cristobal to win that league. I took Sonora second. Now, Sonora's moving down from Class 3A and have some talent back, and they've got home field against Forsan. So that's why I'm kind of leaning against taking Forsan for the number 2 spot, but it would not surprise me.
Yeah, and honestly, Forsan's got some questions to answer too. They've got a lot of talent back on the lines, but they're kind of rebuilding. I mean, they have to find all new playmakers. They lost a lot of skill guys on both offense and defense, so that's kind of the question for them. But I do like, if you're going to be rebuilding, I'd rather be rebuilding at the skill positions than on the lines. They're going to be really experienced up front. I think that will kind of carry them through. Whether they can finish second ahead of Sonora, that's going to be a big test. And honestly, Coach Jason Phillips thinks it's going to be a really tough district with a lot of really competitive games week in and week out. And you look at it, and it really should be. There's a lot of parity in this district. I think this is going to be a good test for Forsan to kind of see where their program is, to see if maybe they can absorb some graduation losses and reload a little bit more than rebuild. So I'm excited for the season for Forsan.
And having just driven through Anthony on my way to Arizona, I can attest to that being one long road trip.
Yeah.
For anybody in that league. That is a long way out there, man.
Yeah, that's a spread out district. You're covering some ground in that one.
All right, with that, we're just about ready to jump up to Class 3A. But before we do that, we want to thank our sponsors for the Wednesday night podcast. Obviously, first and foremost, Capital Farm Credit, who brings you these Wednesday night podcasts throughout the school year. Also, for the love of the game broadcasting, and our old friend Terry Slavens, owner of KLAX 93.5 FM out of Breckenridge, 97.7 FM KATX out of Eastland, Classic Country AM 1330 out of Graham, 94.7 FM KWKQ out of Graham, KROO 1430 AM out of Breck, and KWBY 98.5 FM out of Ranger. That is for the love of the game broadcasting. Also, Rob Durham, sales consultant at Bear Chevrolet Buick Cadillac up in Breckenridge. If you're in the market for a new vehicle or used vehicle, give him a shout at 254-559-2266. That is Rob Durham up at Bear Chevrolet Buick Cadillac in Breckenridge. And with that, we're going to jump into District 5, 3A, Division 2. We're going to move up a classification. And in this district, Dan, we had more fun keeping an eye on this league last year than any district in recent memory. I've never seen a closer group of competitors. It didn't matter what team was playing who. Last place against first place. It was, I mean, generally one or two scores at the most decided almost every game in this league.
Yeah, I mean, there were a lot of games decided by 1, 2, 3 points, and then like the quote unquote, lopsided games were 2-score games, like you said, where it was a lot of times a 1-score game going into the very end. So this was a really fun district. I've never seen, probably in all the time I've done this, a district with more parity than this one has. But 1 to 6, and the cool thing is, unlike a lot of our districts, this one came back completely intact. It was completely unchanged. I think maybe the UIL had fun with it too, so they kept it intact. So this is going to be a really fun district, and honestly, I mean, I think this is, again, you're kind of throwing darts at a board. There's going to be a lot of really good games, and it's going to be really, this was probably one of the most difficult districts I had, and just in terms of trying to predict it, because I honestly don't have a whole lot of idea how it's going to shake out, but I know it's going to be fun.
I went with Jacksboro to win this thing. They've got 18 of 22 starters back under new coach Casey Hubble, a former coach over at Breckenridge. They are going to be changing systems, though. They're not going to be running the wing T there anymore. They're going to be running more of a power spread look. So it's going to be important for Jacksboro to quickly adapt to that during their non-district slate before getting into district. If they can do that, make that transition, and get all pistons firing, I like them to win this league.
Yeah, and I went a little different direction, and kind of bet on Eastland's tradition and on Eastland's just continuity. That's a program that under Coach Morton has been very, very stable over the last several years. And while they do have a lot of playmakers to replace on both sides of the football, I like the lines they return. So I'm kind of betting on that. They've got a lot of guys that are going to be stepping into bigger roles than they've ever had before. We're going to find out kind of how that goes for them, but yeah, Jacksboro I think probably was the safer play, but I like Eastland's stability, and we'll kind of see where that gets me.
Do you see this district? I mean, generally speaking, top to bottom, there's a couple of teams in here I think that may not be stronger than last year, but overall, I think Jacksboro is better than last year. I think Millsap's better than last year. I think Merkel and Comanche are better than last year. I think I mean, overall, top to bottom, I think it's a tougher league than it was last year,
I
unless
think
I'm
it
wrong.
I think it could well be. I mean, I think this district last year had at a minimum 5 playoff quality teams, and I think the same is going to be true this year. But it's really interesting. I kind of went more with kind of tradition and program stability, where I went with Eastland at the top, and I picked Dublin for that 4th spot. But I leaned Merkel. I thought long and hard about putting Merkel in that spot, because I agree with you. I think that's a program that's going to be a lot better in year 2 with Coach Will Cates as well. So this is gonna be fun, and like I said, on this district in particular, this was really difficult for me to predict. So I would not be surprised by literally any scenario, just in terms of 1 through 4.
All right. And with that, we're going to jump over to District 4, 3A, Division 2. And this is that league last year that was top heavy, and I believe it's going to be top heavy again. We have one team and one team only in this league. That's Coahoma. And, I mean, it's a very respectable Coahoma football team that is saddled with this district, with an Idalou, with an Abernathy, with a Lubbock Roosevelt. And then you end up battling for that 4th spot because the league is just so top heavy with these major powerhouses. It's just geographic bad luck for Coahoma.
It is, and I think if I had it to do over again, I might have picked Coahoma to take that 4th spot over Stanton. I think that's going to be a really good competition for that 4th spot. I think
Are you
this.
hedging your bets over there? Listen to this guy
I'm
hedging his
saying I'm
bet.
probably already wrong.
Okay.
I like this Coahoma team now probably more than I did when because I did. It depends on kind of the order of which you do things, kind of where you fall. But I think, having looked more into this Coahoma team, I think they've got a chance to be surprisingly competitive. I think Dave Campbell picked them last in this district. I don't think they're going to finish last. I think they've got a chance to be a lot better. They've got some really good playmakers, actually, and I know that Coach Joslin's excited about the opportunity. He thinks this is going to be one of the first teams he's had where teams can't just stack the box to stop 1 or 2 guys. Obviously, they've had some great runners the last few years. When you think about, some of those guys, they've had Bryson Kirby most recently, the big back before that, Zach. They've had a lot of really good running backs and quarterbacks, as it were, who you could kind of stack the box to try to stop those guys. Joslin doesn't think you're able to do that against this team, just because it's got more depth at different positions, at the receiver position, at the running back position. When you talk about Jaden Vineyard, you talk about Billy Bailey. They've got a freshman quarterback that's going to be coming up and playing quite a bit behind center that they really like. So I think it's gonna be fun. I do think this is a hellish district. When you talk about Abernathy, Roosevelt, and Idalou at the top, those are 3 teams that are 3 of the top 5 teams in that region. So if you're Stanton, Coahoma, or Littlefield, you're probably competing for that 4th spot. But I do think this Coahoma team has a chance to surprise some people.
Well, one thing working in favor of Kahoma, I mean, the two teams that it's got to beat to snag that fourth playoff seed, and I give them a solid shot at getting it. Both Littlefield and Stanton have to come to Kahoma, and so they're gonna get both the teams that they absolutely have to beat at home. So that is definitely something in their favor, and I give them a solid shot at getting that number 4 spot, no doubt about it. But this league,
Yeah.
those front 3 spots are just brutal. I mean,
And
they're
that's
just
that's
absolutely brutal.
that's really what's been so hard for Kahoma the last several years now, because they're basically in the same district in terms of the league, the teams at the top. Is you do step in there and you kind of feel like you're competing for fourth place just because of the level of competition. But I do think this Kahoma team could take some strides forward, and if they can do that, we'll see. It'll be fun to see how the bottom of that district in terms of the playoff race plays out.
All right, now we're going to go over to District 2, 3A Division 2. And Dan, from top to bottom, we agreed. We both took Wall, both took Early and Brady. And I actually I went with Grape Creek for that 4th spot, and so did you. But I went with them because of the way that that double wing offense just really flustered much of that district last year. It's a difficult team to contend with. I think a lot of people kind of overlook Grape Creek, but both you and I took them for that 4th spot. But Ballinger's got a shot at it. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, definitely. And in Grape Creek, I mean, they had a really kind of wild season last year where they struggled through non-district and then just hit a stride where they were playing really well in district play to snag that playoff spot. And I'm kind of banking on the experience they gained from that experience, as well as the returners they have to kind of take that spot. Just because Ballinger is so young this year with a new coach, I think they could be rebuilding for the year for them as well. But Ballinger is another one of those programs that they expect success. So I would not be surprised to see them, make a playoff spot as well. But I'm intrigued by the top of this district, where you've got Wall and Early dropping down from Division One. You've got a Brady team that had a breakout season last year that returns probably the best 1-2 punch in terms of running back combos in the entire Big Country Preps coverage area. When you talk about Zeke Jones and JD Ibarra, I mean, those are two guys both that rushed for 1,000 yards last year that are going to be leaned on really heavily again. I think it's going to be a fun district because Wall brings back almost everybody on defense and a lot of their offense. Early brings back a lot of playmakers. Their receiving core is stacked. They've obviously got one of the best and most experienced quarterbacks in the area. I think this is going to be a really fun district and a fun league, particularly at the top where you've got Wall, Early, and Brady all battling that. I expect to see some really entertaining games from those three.
That Wall defense is going to be something else with 10 guys back, for Craig Slaughter, the defensive coordinator, to work with. They're going to be, and then you couple that with that ball control flex bone offense. They're going to be very tough to score on. I think Wall is going to be one of the comeback teams of the year here in the Big Country this year. I think they're going to come back strong and make a good playoff run since they're down to Division 2. I think that works in their favor. They've got most of their talent back. It's gonna be a good year for the Wallhawks, no doubt about it.
Mm-hmm.
I think Grape Creek is the X factor here, and that double wing offense of theirs, and that you talk about that slow start they got off to. Well, they started executing that offense later in the year, and when they execute that thing, it makes their defense twice as good because you never get your hands on the football. It is a prehistoric offense, just prehistoric. It's like a shell game. And when they start executing it, it's very frustrating. And it's really elevated Grape Creek from doormat to, I mean, a problem, a team that's very respectable now. And that offense is just a major part of it. And it may not be the funnest thing to watch, and it's certainly not the funnest thing to defend, but Grape Creek could sneak up and bite someone just because of the way they play.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. One thing that you mentioned with Wall and Early dropping down that's going to be interesting is this region still very tough. We just talked about District 5. This is still a very tough district or region rather in Region 1, but it was kind of interesting talking to Coach Guy and Coach Price. I think just getting out of Brock's region, I think not having that potential of having to play Brock in the first or second round, I think does kind of invigorate those programs. I think they're excited about the possibilities. They know it's going to be tough because, like I said, this is still a pretty stacked region. But it just I think that both those teams are excited to kind of look across the sidelines or look across the field and see similar numbers on the other sideline. I think it'll be neat to see how that impacts those two teams.
On the subject of Brock, we are now going to District 4, 3A, Division 1. We're moving up to Division 1. And we're in Region 1. And in this district, we have only one team. That is the Brock Eagles. And both you and I have picked them to win ahead of Whitesboro and Pilot Point. Then after that, we start disagreeing. I like Paradise to take that fourth and final spot, but Brock is the obvious pick to win the league.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of interesting. This is a really tough, very competitive district, but it seems like Brock's kind of transcended it the last, 2 or 3 years, gotten to a point where they're just on a different level. And I think even with some graduation losses, it looks to be the same case this year, where you've got Brock that's just better than everybody else in that league. But Whitesboro made a really deep run last year. That's a really quality team. Pilot Point's been good forever. That's a really talented team. And honestly, I mean, Peaster Paradise Boyd, they're going to be fighting like heck for that fourth spot too, and all of those are quality football teams. So this district is probably one of the deeper ones in 3A D1, but Brock's just so good it probably doesn't matter for them. I think they're going to get a lot of good competition, but I don't think it's going to really impact their win loss record.
I'm going with that Paradise team for the fourth spot. They've got a lot of their talent back, and them and Peaster went to double OT last year to
Yeah,
decide that. So it's going to be interesting. It'll be fun to watch.
for sure. And that Peaster team's kind of interesting because they're you know that's a young football program. They've made big strides in a short period of time, but and Paradise is obviously a quality team as well. So I think that matchup right there is going to be a really a big important one again this year for that final playoff spot.
All right, now we're going to shift over to District 3, 3A, Division 1, still in Region 1. And in this league, Dan, this is going to be a tough league.
Yeah.
This is going to be a tough, competitive league. And I mean, anything, and actually from 2 to 4, nothing would really surprise me as far as order of finish. I think Iowa Park's going to be in there, Breckenridge is going to be in there, and Clyde. And we agreed in the order of finish from top to bottom. As you can see, Jim Net, I think, is the clear choice to win the league. But that Breckenridge team has got almost everybody of significance back, and they're going to be dangerous. They're going to be dangerous. And Jim Net has to beat Breckenridge at Buckaroo Stadium. And if you don't think that's tough, ask Brock about how fun that is.
Yeah. And I think there's some parallels in this district too, because 3A D1 has always been a really tough, great district as well. But I think we've gotten to a point where Jim Ned as a program has reached a point where you expect them to be the favorite each and every year in that league just because of the program they built. This is a team that they had some graduation losses too, but they're bringing call-ups up from an undefeated JV team. I think that what Coach Fanning has built there is pretty really impressive. But this is going to be a fun district because Iowa Park obviously dropping down from 4A. That's a really quality program. They've had some really good years. They've some very explosive offenses. And I agree with you. I think both Breckenridge and Clyde are going to be pretty dramatically improved this year. I think it's going to be fun to see both of those teams. Breckenridge brings back a lot of quality players with a lot of experience that have done some really special things for them when you talk about Anson Rogers and some of those other guys. And then Clyde brings back almost everything. They have a ton of letterman returning with a coach who's now in his second year. I think Coach Danny Dudgeon learned a ton from last year's experiences first as a head coach. So I think that's a team that could make some pretty major strides as well. It's gonna be fun to kind of see how that plays out.
All right, now we're going to jump up to Class 4A. We'll be in District 3, Division 2. And we do have some disagreements here, but we do take the top two. We took Hershey and Greenwood in that order. Hershey has got so much talent, so much skill and speed. It's just going to be they're just going to be maybe perhaps overwhelming for the rest of this league. Greenwood, I think, is going to be a solid pick for number 2. And then after that, it's really the 3 and 4 spot between Graham and Snyder. You and I disagreed on that. I went with Graham for number 3, and my rationale was Snyder's offensive line really has taken a hit. They had to rebuild it to begin with, and then they've lost 2 starters to knee injuries. I just like Graham, and even though Graham's going to have to beat Snyder at Tiger Stadium to get that 3 spot.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I could have gone either way with that one. The thing I liked about Snyder is just the experience they gained last year during a season where they ran all the way to the third round of the playoffs. I think they kind of took a big step forward under Coach Westwood. I think that just the program in general, I think really to me gained some very valuable experience there. But you are right, Graham's been a great program for a long time, and honestly, in this district, you've got Hershey, who's probably the region favorite. You've got Greenwood, which brings back a lot of talent that should be very good. And then the other 3 are all rebuilding. Snyder, Graham, and Sweetwater are all going to be replacing a whole lot of talent from last year. And poor Sweetwater, they've got precious few starters. I mean, I think one starter back on both sides of the football. But I think this is an opportunity for them. That's a program that has been very competitive for a long time. This is an opportunity for them to show kind of where their program sits, to where you can lose those kind of players and see if you can still be competitive for that third or fourth playoff spot. But they've got an uphill battle, in my opinion, just because of all of the talent they've lost. They lost some really key players that have been kind of household names the last 3 years.
District 5, 4A, Division 1 is going to be a tough league once again. There are 3 teams in there that are just nobody'd be stunned to see any of these teams make it to Jerry World, frankly, and they're all in the same league. We both went with China Spring to win. My rationale there, even though Stephenville is the defending state champs, Stephenville does have some spots where they got to rebuild the interior of that defense. For one thing, they're going to have to develop some new skill people. Also, they're still going to be very good, no doubt about it, and maybe a regional favorite or close to a regional favorite, I should say. But China Spring brings back more lettermen than any team in the league. And this is a team that went to Jerry World last year in Division 2. They bring back 39 guys from that team. That's going to be tough to overcome.
Yeah, I mean, that's what's crazy is you lose Midlothian Heritage, that's a great program, and your district gets tougher because you've added another or another state champion in China Spring. You've got 2 state champions in this district, China Spring and Stephenville, both of which bring back a lot of talent. So I think that, and then here's how you know that district's tough: when Waco La Vega's the consensus, at least among us, the consensus number 3 pick in that district. I
Yeah.
mean, this is a La Vega program that's been a regional power forever. So this district's going to be pretty wild. They lost Brownwood, they lost Midlothian Heritage out of it, but and Gatesville's been in there in the past. But at the top of this district, it's every bit as tough as it's always been, if not tougher.
All right, now we're going to take a look at District 2, 4A, Division 1, heading out west, where 2 of our teams reside in this league. One of them shifting from that league we just talked about, District 5. The Brownwood Lions have shifted out west to District 2, and I think it works in their favor. I think the timing is very good. They have got a ton of talent back. Almost all their significant players are back. They have 2 quarterbacks. They had a 10-0 JV. They're going to be bringing those kids up. They're loaded. This is going to be the best Brownwood team I think we've seen in quite some time. Both you and I took them to win ahead of Andrews, who's really been a consensus pick amongst media people. A lot of people are taking Andrews to win that league. I disagree.
Yeah. And I did too, and I'm gonna get an early look at this Brownwood team. They're hosting Wiley on Friday, so that's gonna be a game I'm gonna get to see, and I'm excited about that. But I think this Brownwood team, there are some parallels I mentioned early in Wall with their dropping out of region or out of Class 3A Division 1 and kind of losing Brock in their region. I think there's kind of a same reinvigoration with Brownwood, which has been in that district with Stephenville, with La Vega, with Midlothian Heritage, where they kind of felt like they were playing for 4th place the last few years. Now they've got a chance with a really experienced team to compete for a district championship. I think that's going to really kind of motivate them, and you're going to see a chance for Brownwood to have a really special kind of breakout season. But I think this district's fun. You got Andrews, which has kind of been a West Texas power for a long time. They should be very competitive. I'm eager to see what Big Spring can do, because Big Spring had some pretty significant graduation losses, but they've had back-to-back winning seasons. And Coach McWilliams, it kind of wants them to show that they're at a point now where they can continue to keep those expectations high even when they have graduation losses. So I'll be eager to see how they do.
That Brownwood road trip to Andrews in district play is going to be a big one. That's going to be a big ball game. If Andrews especially builds up a nice record during the course of pre-district and then into district, that's going to be a big game out there because Brown was going to have a good record going into that one. So that'll be a fun game for the people out there in Andrews. And we're going to jump over now at this point to District 2 5A. We're going to move up to Class 5A Division 2. And District 2, where both Cooper and Wiley, 2 of our big locals, are in that one. Both you and I took Ryder. I think that Ryder is the clear favorite in that league with 36 lettermen back from that 12-2 team and 16 starters back. That's going to be a deadly football team. But I think the Cooper Wiley matchup in league play, that'll be for that 2 spot. I really think Cooper and Wiley are going to be the picks for those next playoff seeds.
Yeah, and this is a district in a region where if you finish first or second in this district, you've got a chance to play a while in the playoffs. This region has traditionally been relatively weak. It got a little tougher this alignment where you've got Argyle moving up from 3A Division 1, so that'll be a tough program moving, or 4A Division 1, sorry. That'll be a tough program moving into that region. You've got Colleyville Heritage back in there with Grapevine. That'll be a tough team in that region. But other than, Grapevine, Heritage, Argyle, and Canutillo, honestly, I mean, I think probably two or three of the best teams in this region are in this district with Ryder, Cooper, and Wiley. So if Cooper and Wiley are playing for that runner-up spot, that's going to be a really important game, because if you finish second in this district, you've got a chance to really play a while. So, and I think that's going to be a very competitive game. I got to see both of those teams scrimmage. I think both of them got good, solid squads back that are going to grow throughout the course of the season. It's going to be fun to see how this plays out. I think we both agree Ryder, with everything they have come back, is the clear favorite. But the Cooper and Wiley are not going to be teams to sleep on. It's going to be fun to kind of see how that plays out as well.
All right. Our last district in the big country that we will talk about is in Class 5A. It's District 2, 5A, Division 1, where we have only one team, the Abilene Eagles. And you and I disagree on this one. This is a big one that we disagree on. And I took a surprise pick. A lot of people are taking Amarillo Tascosa. I did not. I went with Lubbock Cooper to win this thing, and I'll give you my rationale. Tascosa only returns 9 of its starters from last year total out of the 22, and they're missing TCU signee Major Everhart. That's a big loss. And Lubbock Cooper, on the other hand, has more letterman back than any other team in the league, and they've got a bunch of them. 44 guys are back from last year. They've got experience all over the field. They do have talent. This is a talented team. I like Cooper to win this league, and Tascosa and Abilene both have to beat them on their home field. They've got Abilene and Tascosa at home. So I'm going with Cooper.
And Cooper, I've seen Cooper obviously in that district with Wiley the last several years. This Cooper team has been very good, made a rapid rise up the alignment. This Cooper team not too long ago was playing 4A football. Now they're playing big school 5A, and I think will compete well. The thing I like about Tascosa is that is a program with just so much continuity, so much stability. They run an offense with that option offense that is just such an ingrained part of their identity. I think that is kind of a plug and play deal at this point where they can have those kind of graduation losses and still be really, really difficult to defend. They're always defend well. So we'll see. I think that honestly, and this is going to be maybe a bold statement. Abilene High drops down from Class 6A to 5A Division 1, and I honestly think their district got tougher. I think that this district's tougher than the one they were in, which was a very good 6A district. But I think when you talk about Tascosa, Abilene High, Lubbock Cooper, I think all three of those are teams that have a chance to play 3 or 4 rounds this year. And then honestly, Coronado and Amarillo High are both probably playoff teams in any other district, and one of those is going to be left out most likely. So this is going to be a really fun, really competitive district where if you don't show up to play each week, you've got a chance to lose. So it's going to be really exciting, kind of see how that plays out. But you and I were we had quite a few differences on this district. So it's one of us is going to be either more right or more wrong than the other. So this will be one of those fun districts where we actually did have some disagreement.
I might be way off. I might be way off on Tascosa. I mean, we'll see. If it's as plug and play as you seem to believe, I might be way off on them. We agreed right on the money with Abilene High. Everything else is like all over the place, but we both have Abilene High taking the number 2 seed. We shall see. It's going to be a fun league.
It will be.
Doubt about that.
Cooper's got a super. I mean, that's a program that's been really, really good at the 5A Division 2 level. They did lose a couple of D1 players that were really big parts of what they did defensively last year, but you are right. They still bring back a ton of lettermen and a ton of talented kids. So I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, to see them finish first. I kind of went with tradition and went with the teams that have played at that higher level, for longer. But I think this is going to be a really exciting, really competitive league. I'm really looking forward to watching some of those Abilene High games once they get to district and kind of seeing how that plays out.
And with that, it's just about time to wrap up the Capital Farm Credit Wednesday night podcast. But before we do that, we want to remind you that we've got 3 separate subscription packages here at bigcountrypreps.com. We got a monthly for $5 a month. We got a semi-annual 6-month subscription where we knock that price down to $4 a month. And then we got an annual 12-month subscription where we knock that price down to $3 a month. $36 for a full year of Big Country High School athletic coverage. And nobody in the area is going to give you more for less than we do.
And we also want to remind you, with the football season kicking off, volleyball season in action, you will start to see a lot of photos on the site. And if you see any of those you like in any one of our galleries, those are available for purchase. You can purchase a digital download for $7. And we also have some keepsakes and prints available. So make sure you check those out. We are at a lot of events throughout the school year. We take a ton of photos. That's something we're very proud of, something we really enjoy doing here at bigcountrypreps.com.
All big country, all high school, all the time. Welcome home.